This sprouting jar comes with a glass jar that is 1 litre in size and the plastic lid that is on top of it that is especially made for sprouting. The lid, it has holes in it that allow air into the jar and also slits that allow water be released from the jar. When you first receive your jar, please make sure to wash both pieces before use. Both pieces are completely dishwasher safe. The lid on the jar also acts as a stand by using these 3 pieces here. So when the jar is turned upside down, you can place it on a saucer and any excess water will drip out these holes. This will be explained again in the video, later in the video, but these slits here are how water is drained from the jar at the time of rinsing. So the water will come easily out of this section here when the jar is tilted like this, and these holes here, they allow air into the jar. The first step to take when sprouting seeds with this jar is to put some seeds into the jar while there's no water in it. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to show some broccoli seeds being sprouted, and we're going to put 3 spoonfuls into this jar. The next step is to put water into the sprouting jar with the seeds. And at this very first time, the best thing to do is to rinse the seeds a couple of times, as there could be some dust on the seeds and it just really helps them to clean them. So this can be done 2 times on the first go. And you can see here that the water is draining out of these slits. Something to note is that if the jar is turned upside down like this, water does not drain easily from the lid. A suction happens in the jar. So it needs to be tilted like this so water comes out of the slits. For this very first time that the seeds have been in the jar, and this goes for each time you start a new batch of sprouts, you're going to soak the seeds in the water for approximately 12 hours. A little bit more or a little bit less than 12 hours won't make a big difference. So now you can see here that the jar is full of water, the seeds are at the bottom of the jar, and over the next 12 hours the seeds are going to soak up water from the jar, and this is going to give them a good head start on their sprouting. And just to note, this is the only time that water will be left fully in the jar like this. So once this 12-hour period is over, we're going to drain this water out, and after that water will never be left sitting in the jar like this. So this is about 12 hours later, and all we're going to do at this point is drain the water out of the jar and give it 1 rinse. This is just to keep the seeds clean, and again the water drains out of the slits here. And it's best to just try and make sure that you get as much water out of the jar as possible. The jar can then be placed upside down on something like a saucer, so any excess water that happens to drip out of the bottom is caught on the saucer. So this is day 3, and if you take a look in the jar, you can see a lot of white coming from the seeds. So this is the seeds beginning to sprout. So we're going to rinse these again. So we're going to fill the jar up with water You can just fill it halfway even, give the seeds and the water a shake, and then drain the water back out of it. Normally you can do this 2 times per rinse. And again, it is just really important to make sure that all the water is out of the jar after each rinse. Just to make sure that the seeds and the sprouts are not sitting in water, because if they're left to sit in water, they will begin to rot, and the water and the seeds together will start to ferment and they'll begin to rot. So the most common mistake with sprouting is that water is left in with the seeds, kind of like this, or the jar is turned upside down to drain by itself with the water still in it, and it never really drains properly unless you actually get all the water out of it after rinsing it like this. So you really shouldn't see any excess water left in the jar after rinsing it. And the good thing about sprouting is that rinsing it like this, doing these rinses, this is really the only work that has to be done every day. This rinsing should be done at least twice a day, and it's to keep moisture in the jar so the sprouts have something to live on and continue to grow. You can't do it too much, but it can be done too little. So if it isn't done twice a day, the sprouts can dry out, and that can interrupt their growth and slow it down or even stop it altogether. So rinsing at least twice a day is recommended, but you can do it more if it's possible. Once again then, the jar can just be placed upside down on a saucer for any small bit of excess water to continue to drain out of the holes. So again, sprouting is an easy process, and doing this rinsing that we've just done for another 2 to 3 days is probably going to have the sprouts in this jar ready to eat, and they can probably be grown a little bit longer if depending on your preference, and we'll look at that in the days ahead. This is day 4, and you can see that the sprouts have grown a good bit since day 3, and it's the exact same process today of just rinsing these 2 or more times a day. So the process is the same. Fill the jar with water, just shake it around and make sure that all of the water is drained from the jar before turning it back upside down. And as the sprouts grow, it gets a little bit more, takes a little bit of a few extra seconds to drain the water from the jar. So you can see at this point that the sprouts are yellow. The yellow is actually their leaves, and the white bits are their roots. And at this stage you can actually eat the sprouts if you want to. If green sprouts are something that you want, you can just place them in front of a windowsill like this, and the sunlight will turn them green over the next couple of days. This is day 5, and as you can see, the sprouts have turned slightly green from being on the windowsill yesterday in the sun. And at this point you can, if you want, you can take the sprouts out of the jar and refrigerate them. So put them in a container and refrigerate them and eat them as you need them. Or you can continue the process of rinsing them and rinsing them each day for another couple of days, and the jar will completely fill up. That's your decision, but from yesterday onwards they're ready to eat.